Okay, you're welcome to today's edition of the Canva and Microsoft Project Masterclass. Uh, and before we start, today we're going to look at how to link project relationship, as we've already done the theory in our previous lesson. So we're going to look at how we can link activities in MS Project scheduling. So let's see. Okay, so today we are going to look at how we can schedule in MS project. So we're going to take a typical project and then look at the way that we can schedule that project. So it's solely a practical work for today. So now let's look at what we are going to do, or let's focus on today's activity. Today we are going to build, or we are going to schedule for a wastewater plant. So before then, let's look at the wastewater treatment plant. You're going to draw a work schedule for the wastewater treatment plant. So let's look at it. So in our Excel format, these are the WBS of the wastewater treatment plant. You have the equalization of basin, we have the pump station, and then you have the control building. Now, when you look at this side, you have the sub activities. So under the equalization of basins, we shall look at excavate and backfill down to paint and finishes. When you come to the pump station, the various activities will be set breakers station down to piping. Now, when you come to the control building, it starts from the pour footings. Let me change it. Okay, pour footings down to finish works and paint. So these are the various durations that each activity is going to take. It means that when you come to the excavate and backfill, we are going to have 1 week duration to finish this activity. When you come to the finishes, finish wall and paint, it has also gotten 4 duration to complete it. These are the various relationships that we are going to use to schedule this activity. And you have the FS. The FS means you are going to use the relationship start to finish, and then SX is start to start, as we know from our previous lesson. Now let's look at this side. We have the budgeted total cost for each of the activity. So in summary, for me to complete the equalization of basin, you need $12,000 to complete this equalization of basins. Within these activities, you are going to use the $12,000 to complete, or as a fund to complete these activities. When we come to the pump station, we have the $16,000 to finish the pump station activities. We need $16,000. When we come to the control building, which means that we need $20,000 to complete the control building. So in all, our budgeted total cost for this project is going to be around $48,000. That is the summation of 12,000 down to the $20,000. We need $48,000 to complete this wastewater treatment plant. So these are the responsible managers for each of the WBS, or each of the activities that we are going to look at. So when we come to the equalization of basin, the responsible manager is Petros Kofi, and his role is as a project manager. When you come to the pump station, we have Pope, and he is the construction manager. And then the control building is we have Kenneth, and he is a planning engineer. So basically, that's what we are going to do for today. We are going to schedule for base activity. So let's go back and open our MS project. So now let's search for our MS project. So we tap project. So okay, so this is our MS project. We are going to open a blank page. Okay, so now here we are. We are going to draw the schedule based on the activities that we have with their various WBS as well as the sub activities. So here we have the first WBS as equalization of the basin. So before we create that sub WBS, first of all, let us highlight or let's make this cell an active cell, and then we click on summary. So you take your active cell and then you click on summary. So here we are going to input our WBS. We are going to input our WBS, which is the equalization of basin. Okay, so under this equalization of basin, okay, let's extend it small. Okay, under this equalization of basin, we are going to have these activities as the topsoil, stripping, we are going to have a form and pour slab, pour slab. We are going to have our form and walls, form and pour walls. We have our electricity, then we have our paint and finishes, So these are the various activities under the WBS equalization. So now, since we want all these to fall under or to be a sub activity, you just have to highlight them and then you click on summary. Sorry, let's go back. Okay, let's check and see. Very good. So already they are all under the WBS equalization of basin. Now let's create the other WBS. So you just take the active cell and then you click on our summary. So the next WBS will be our pump station, our pump station. So under the pump station, we have these as our activities: set precast station. Then we have our set set pumps, and volts, and then we have the piping. Okay, so these are the various activities under the WBS pump station. So our final WBS is the building, the control building. So you pick your active cell, click on assembly, then you enter the name of the WBS here. That is control building. So let's look at the activities under the WBS control building. We have port 14, we have the machinery, to floor level, we have the electrical, that's lab. We have the machinery and openings. We have the havoc, electrical, then the last one will be finish walls, and paint. So these are the various, let me extend this. Okay, so these are the various activities under the WBS control building. So now let's change all these task mode to auto schedule. So you just need to highlight them and then you click on auto schedule. No problem. Come here, you highlight all the activities, select the auto schedule. The same thing applies to this side. Auto schedule. Very good. So we are going to look at the various duration that you would need in completing the top stripping. We are going to use 1 week for this, 2 weeks for that, another 1 week. The electricity will take 3 weeks. The painting, the finish will be like 3 weeks. Sorry, 2 weeks. Come to the pump station, the activities, we have 2 weeks. We have 2 weeks. We have 1 week for this. Piping take like 2 weeks. Come to the control building. Let's look at the duration for port 14, which is 3 weeks. 1 week for that, another 1 week. You have 4 weeks to complete this. You have 5 weeks to finish this activity. You have another 4 weeks to finish this activity. So let's look at something. It means that for we to finish this these activities, we are going to start from 2nd February, and then our finishing date is not yet established. After the linkage, or after you've linked all the activities, that's when we are going to look at the finish duration for this project. Now we are going to establish a link. We are going to establish a link between all these activities. So what we have here is what we call the Gantt chart. The Gantt chart. So it's a display, or a depict the various duration in the form of a graph on the shadow page. So it depicts the durations that we are going to use, or we are going to have within each of the activities. So I would advise that let's first of all label all these activities here. So you select the activity, come to, let's look at, pick it, and then you right click on it, come to format, and then look at the text, click on the text bar. Let's name this activity to the right side. So just type in your name and then click on OK. So the name will be displayed on the left side of on the right side of the activity. So the activity is the top cell stripping. So when I come to the Gantt chart, we are going to have it being labeled within the Gantt chart. Let's do the same thing to the rest. So on the right side, just type name here, and then click OK. The same thing, format, type name, click on OK, select format, come here, just name, OK, just name, type name, just type name, just type name, 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 that order, do it in that order, just type name, here, yes, so the name is there. Let's pick this one, sorry, format, name, type on name. So we have all the activities being displayed at the right side of the Gantt chart schedule. So now let's come to view, click on view the entire project. Let's look at it. So these are the various activities that you are going to have within the project, within the project lifespan. Now let's introduce our WBS. So come to this side, just first of all let's hide this column, come to this, type WBS. Yes, it just have to tackle it. Yeah, so this is the WBS. Now I think we've already discussed some aspect of it. You click on it, drag and then push it towards this side, then lift. So now we have the WBS as one, and these are the various activities under it. You have the WBS of the pump station as 1.6, and you have the various activities under it. You have the WBS of WBS of 1.64 as a control building, and these are the various activities under each of the WBS. Okay, now let's look at this. When you come here, we have the predecessor column here. Now before we can schedule, we need to know our predecessors and our successors. Predecessor, when we talk of predecessor, we've discussed the predecessor in our previous lesson, and then when we talk of a successor, we've also talked about successor in our previous lesson. So now we are starting from the project or the activity, topsoil stripping. Now what the relationship is telling us is that we need to finish our topsoil stripping before we can tackle the form and then pour slab. So in this case, we are going to put our predecessor activity here. We are going to put our predecessor activity here. Now our predecessor activity, so our predecessor activity is the activity that we need to finish before we come to the successor activity. So when you look at the code 1 and 3, the predecessor is our number 2, and after this topsoil, which is the predecessor, it will be succeeded by the successor formwork. So if we are to input our predecessor activity here, it means that our predecessor activity for this formwork becomes our task 2. So we are going to just put 2 here. So when we put the 2 here, Microsoft Project recognize that before we can tackle activity 3 or number 3, we need to finish the number 2. So the number 2 is our predecessor and our number 3 is our successor. Now let's look at it in the Gantt chart. When we look at it in the Gantt chart, you could see that the arrow is, you could see that there is an arrow pointing downwards from topsoil to the form and pour slab, from topsoil stripping to the form and pour slab. Now look at it very carefully with comparison or comparing this to the the theory that you've learned. Look at the nature of the of our link. Now it is finished to start. It is finished to start. It means that we are going to finish the topsoil stripping before we can start our form work. So look at where the arrow is pointing. The arrow starts from the finishing side of the topsoil and it enters the starting side of the form and pour slab. You get it? Very good. Now let's come to the next activity. Before we can tackle form and pour walls, we need to finish form and pour slab. So in this case, our predecessor activity for this successor activity becomes number 3. You see it? Yes, our predecessor activity for this successor activity, which is the form and pour walls, becomes the number 3, which means that we need to finish this before we can start this. We need to finish this before we can start this. Very good. But then our form and pour slab, the relationship is start to start. Is start to start. So what do you do? This is what you are going to do. You just double click on it. Now let's come to the predecessor activity. Now the predecessor activity is here as the number 3. Now let's look at the relationship type. You have the various relationship types here. So we have the finish to start, you have the start to start, finish to finish, start to finish here. So we are going to select our start to start as it is in the schedule and then click on OK. It means that we are going to start the form work and pour slab, and then the form work and pour walls all together. They will be starting at the same time. So when you look at it, it is starting from the starting side of the form work and pour slab, and it enters the starting side of the form work and pour walls. So that will be the start to start relationship. So we start form work and pour slab as we start form work and pour walls. So these two activities will be together. Okay. So our next activity is also finish to start. So in this case, our predecessor activity becomes activity pour form work and pour walls, which is number 4. So just need to put our number 4 here. That is it. Now our painting work becomes our predecessor activity for painting work becomes number 5. So just put it there. Okay. Now we are coming to this side. The next WBS, which is the pump station. The pump station. This is our successor. This will become our predecessor activity. Now let's move to the second activity. The second activity is set pumps and vaults. So what do you do before we can start the set pumps and vaults? We need to complete this set precast station. So the predecessor activity for the set pumps and vaults becomes our number 8. So just put the 8 here. That is your predecessor activity. So we finish the precast station before we start the pumps and vaults. Now before we can start piping, we need to finish the pumps and vaults. So this becomes our predecessor activity. and that is number 9. Okay, no, okay, that is it. Now let's look at the set pumps and the set pumps and volt. The relationship for the set pumps and the volt is start to start. So we double click on it, we change the relationship types to start, and then place on OK. So we are going to start these two activities all together. We are going to start these two activities together. So as you start the precast station, and then as you start the precast station, then you also start the set pumps and volt. That is good. So now let's come to the next activity, the next WBS, which is the control building. So here too, we start setting our predecessor from here. So the predecessor activity for item 13 becomes item 12. Very good. The predecessor activity for item 14 becomes item 13. In that order, they become item 14. Look at the number here is 15, so the predecessor will be, you need to finish 14. 16, so we need to finish 15, and then finally 17, so we need to finish 16 before we can tackle the finish walls and paint. So now let's look at our project. So you could see that the project has been scheduled nicely here with the various activities in the Gantt chart. Now we can also connect this WBS. So the bars that you find here are the various WBS. So this one represents the equalization of basin, this one is for the pump station, and then this one is for the control building. So now let's look at it. So now before we can finish, or before you can start the pump station, we need to finish the equalization of the basin. And let's look at the number. The number is number 1. So you need to finish the equalization of basin before we start the pump station. This becomes our number 1 here. Sorry. Okay. The project can't link assembly task to one of its subtasks at okay, no problem. We shall look at it in a later time. I hear. Okay, so you shall look at how to connect all these WBS together in a later time. So now let's look at it. Now the schedule is telling us that this project will start from 2nd February, which is 8 a.m. to 25th June 5 p.m. So this is the duration of the project. This is the duration of the project. Now, so any delay in these activities might affect the completion date of this project. Any delay of any of these activities might affect the duration date for these activities. And then we are going to look at we shall look at the activities that are critical. The activities that are critical. So today I'm not going to talk about the critical activities. Today is just to show students on how to draw or how to schedule in the MS project. So I'm not going to put more load on you for today. Just practice what you've learned today. Just draw a simple schedule for a project like what we've established today, try to link all the various activities using their successes and their predecessors, as we've demonstrated here, with the various relationship, either being start to start, finish to start, or any of them, and just do a simple project like this as a practice. When we meet next time, we are going to talk about the lacks that the lead and the lacks that we discussed in our theory class, as well as uh, the critical activities that we can have within this particular project. So just try your hands on any of these, or just take a simple project of your own and just practice it until you meet next week. If you have any question, just drop it down under the comment section, and let's all learn together. And I hope and I believe that through time, you update yourself, you learn, you add some values to your skills as we progress. So have a nice evening and enjoy the lessons, the upcoming lessons as we keep going. So thank you very much. So just practice this one till we meet next week, Monday.